Chapter 534 Mermaids. Huo Yuao said, that's why we can only barge our way in. The strategic position of Eastern Sun City is very important to the Sun Moon Empire. Otherwise, they wouldn't have stationed so many troops there. Once we complete our destruction of this place, we'll greatly affect the Sun Moon Empire's deployment in the north. In this way, we'll be closer to our goal. That's why this fight cannot be avoided. Tang Wutong's eyes brightened immediately, and she said, Yuao, I have an idea. Since the Sun Moon Empire has installed a lot of spiritual detection soul tools within their soul formations in Eastern Sun City, such that you can't even use your spiritual power, does it mean that they are guarding against enemies who are adept at spiritual abilities? If that's the case, is it possible that they are guarding against aquatic soul beasts? Huo Yuao suddenly thought of something. He had known Tang Wutong for a long time. He immediately understood what she was thinking. Are you saying that there are spiritual type aquatic soul beasts here which can become my spirit? Ever since Huo Yuao got the Ice Bear King as his spirit, the soul rings of his ultimate ice martial soul were already completely filled. The Ice Bear King gave him his 8th soul ring, and his remaining strength was sufficient to confer on him his 9th soul ring. When his 2nd soul core successfully formed, he would be a true 9-ringed titled Douluo. However, things were different for his other martial soul. Currently, Huo Yuao had 5 spirits: the Snow Empress, Ice Empress, Sky Dream Ice Worm, Ice Bear King, and Star Anise Mysterious Ice Grass. 4 of his spirits affected Huo Yuao's Ice Jade Empress Scorpion, but his spirit eyes only had 7 rings so far. Huo Yuao once swore that he would never kill a soul beast to obtain soul rings ever again. This made it even harder for him to obtain a spiritual type soul ring. Although his spiritual power was very great right now, soul rings were still very significant for soul masters. This was applicable even for Huo Yuao. If he could obtain the last 2 soul rings he needed for his spirit eyes, his spiritual abilities would definitely be greatly increased. Huo Yuao was also trying to ride his luck. It would be great if he could get a spiritual type spirit and 2 more soul rings for his spirit eyes. Otherwise, he would just forget it. Anyway, he was still a titled Douluo if he had 9 soul rings for his ultimate ice martial soul. Although it would be regretful if he had 2 fewer soul rings for his spiritual type martial soul, it wouldn't be too impactful. Right now, he immediately realized that he might stand a chance after Tang Wutong reminded him. If he could obtain a spiritual type soul ring here, his abilities could improve further. The biggest benefit to increasing his spiritual power was increasing his probability of success when he tried forming his 2nd soul core in the future. Whichever method he used to form his 2nd soul core, his spiritual control was very important. Even though his spiritual control was already very strong now, he was still some way off from the rank 98 transcendent Douluo who were trying to form their 2nd soul core. Dim lights flashed, and Huo Yuao revealed a pensive look in his eyes. After a brief moment, he said, if your conjecture is right, we'll need to make a trip to the IC. Tang Wutong said, let's go together once we're finished with things over here. Less than 15 kilometers away from the northern city gates of the eastern city was the northern side of the IC. It was very close. At this moment, Huo Yuao suddenly felt as if there was something moving in his spiritual sea. He thought of something, and generated a connection with his spiritual sea. You should ask me about something like this. The Snow Empress voice sounded. As Huo Yuao's spiritual power grew stronger, his spirits had to go through his spiritual sea to inform him that they wanted to connect to him. Huo Yuao relaxed the control of his spiritual sea before their intentions were made known to him. He didn't do this intentionally. After his cultivation improved, his spiritual sea reached a solid state. Yes. Although the ice sea wasn't the ice plains of the extreme north, it was still extremely cold. The Snow Lady was once the ruler of the ice plains of the extreme north. Naturally, she knew best. Huo Yuao smacked his own forehead. I was really stupid. It would have been easier for me to just ask the Snow Lady whether a spiritual type soul beast can appear here. He opened his spiritual interference domain, and everything around him became slightly blurry. No matter whether it was the aerial surveillance soul tools or those who passed by, they couldn't see anything for 10 meters around him. Snow Empress. Huo Yuao gently called. 2 beams of light shone at the same time. One was white, and the other was green. 2 beauties appeared in front of Huo Yuao. They were the Ice and Snow Empresses. The Snow Empress smiled and said, "You are really dumb. You don't even know how to tap into your advantages. Who else is better equipped than my sister and I when it comes to the extreme north?" Huo Yuao laughed bitterly. "Don't mock me anymore. Are there any spiritual type soul beasts in the northern ice sea?" The Snow Empress answered without any hesitation. "Yes, of course there are. Anything is possible in the sea." "What?" Huo Yuao's eyes lit up after hearing her words. He also didn't expect the Snow Empress to be so certain. The Snow Empress said, "It seems like neither of you are very familiar with aquatic soul beasts." Huo Yuao laughed bitterly and said, "Of course not. They aren't very useful for soul masters like us. Since that's the case, we don't have much research on them. Even in Shrek Academy, there are very few records on them. I vaguely recall that a million-year soul beast once appeared. It was called the Deep Sea Devil Whale King. Our ancestor, Tang Clan, once obtained a soul ring from the sea." The Snow Empress said, "There are many aquatic soul beasts. In fact, there are more aquatic soul beasts than there are soul beasts on land. Furthermore, they are very strong. Their overall abilities are above that of land soul beasts. The only advantage that soul beasts on land possess is their outstanding fighting strength. I have to say that Ditian is indeed very powerful. There was originally the Deep Sea Devil Whale King among aquatic soul beasts who was very strong. However, even he wasn't Ditian's match. According to what I know, in the aquatic regions close to the Douluo continent, there are a few such aquatic soul beasts. As for what types of soul beasts exist in further aquatic regions, I have no clue. However, I can still confirm that none of them would be Ditian's match even if they exist. Ditian is already the extreme. If not for the fact that he can't become a god, he would have tried for it. The Snow Empress and Ditian weren't friends. It was also precisely because of this that her appraisal of him was honest. Huo Yuao's expression changed slightly. His future goal was to defeat Ditian. If he couldn't do so, he couldn't truly become a god and inherit the godly seed of the god of emotions. It was only by defeating Ditian that he could fulfill his goal. Right now, he didn't just learn how strong the beast god was from one aspect. Ditian was deservedly the strongest creature on the entire Douluo continent. Tang Wutong asked, "Snow Empress, is there an aquatic soul beast that's adept at spiritual power in this ice sea? If there is it possible for it to become Yuao's spirit?" The Snow Empress hesitated for a moment before replying. "In the sea, there are many soul beasts that are adept at spiritual abilities. However, there's only one sufficiently strong species nearby. It's the mermaids." Mermaids. Huo Yuao and Tang Wutong were both curious. They had never heard of such a name before. The Snow Empress said, "Mermaids are also known as genies in the sea. They are the best in terms of spiritual abilities among all the aquatic soul beasts that I know. Their upper bodies are like humans, while their lower bodies resemble that of fish. Most of them are female, and the females rule their species. Whether it's a male or a female, the upper half of a mermaid is always very nice. The reason why they're called mermaids is because of their leader, who is known as the Princess of the Sea. The Princess of the Sea is the ruler of this aquatic region. Among the few aquatic soul beasts that can claim to have similar cultivation to mine, one of them is the Princess of the Sea. Her spiritual power is extremely strong. If she's fighting in the sea, even the evil eye tyrant might not be able to beat her. However, the evil eye tyrant is definitely stronger on land. Because of how strong they are and their spiritual abilities, many other species of aquatic soul beasts ally with them. Their overall abilities are rather strong." Tang Wutong asked, "Since aquatic soul beasts are so strong, why don't they venture onto land after their cultivation reaches a certain point? Wouldn't they benefit more?" The Ice Empress smiled slightly and said, "You can't use the mentality of land-bound soul beasts on aquatic soul beasts. To them, the sea is their habitat. It's where the living conditions fit them. Also, a big problem for them is that their abilities are greatly weakened when they leave the sea. The longer they are out of the sea, the more their lives will be in danger. Under such a condition, they are naturally not inclined to leave the sea." The Snow Empress said, "If Yuao wants to obtain a spirit from an aquatic soul beast, mermaids are definitely a good choice. There are 100,000-year mermaids. It's just that." As she spoke until here, she furrowed her brow before continuing. "Mermaids feel that they are above others. They don't really respect any other species of soul beasts. Furthermore, they are very strong. Trying to convince them won't be easy. After all, aquatic soul beasts don't regard humans as their natural enemies. Even that empire that specializes in making soul tools never threatens them." Huo Yuao said, "I'd like to try when the fight in Eastern Sun City is over." Tang Wutong looked at the Snow and Ice Empresses and asked, "Will there be any danger?" The Snow Empress replied, "If you don't go too deep into the ice sea, there shouldn't be much of a problem. I'll appear then. Even the mermaid will need to show some face to me. At the same time, it will also depend on whether you get lucky. Although I believe that the probability of success isn't huge, I'll still accompany you since you want to go there." Huo Yuao nodded and said, "All right, that's it then. Please return now." We are about to begin our mission. The snow and ice empresses turned into 2 streaks of flowing light and returned to Huo Yuao's spiritual sea. Huo Yuao squinted slightly and said, if I can obtain my 8th soul ring this time, I can try for my 2nd soul core after a period of consolidation. The probability of success will also be greater. Tang Wutong asked, are you still sticking with the yin-yang compliment? I still feel that it's too dangerous. Huo Yuao smiled as he said, I still have to give it a shot. Otherwise, I won't be convinced. My future goal is to defeat the Tian. If I can't get a soul core that's as strong as his, how can I do so? Since I'll need to challenge him one day, I must do so in my best state. Even if I fail, I can still use the other method. My greatest advantage is my age. I still have enough time. Tang Wutong rolled her eyes and said, you are really stubborn. Huo Yuao chuckled and got closer to her before pecking her on the cheek. After this, he said, don't you like how stubborn I am? Poi. Who likes your stubbornness? Huo Yuao laughed. Oh, it's called persistence, isn't it? You like my persistence. Persistence and stubbornness are synonyms. There's not much difference between the two. Let's go and find a place. I really wish to cuddle you and sleep. Tang Wutong laughed and said, come on then. I'll let you do whatever you want. Huo Yuao's expression immediately turned bitter. Your seal will come and give me trouble even before 3 seconds is up. Hey, when can I see my father-in-law, who's the only one who can solve this problem? Tang Wutong also pinched the soft flesh on his waist and said, I think this is a rather good arrangement. Let's take it as a test for you. Huo Yuao appeared sorrowful. This test is too difficult. As the two of them spoke, they approached a nearby inn. Let's go in there. Huo Yuao led Tang Wutong into the inn. They asked for a room and used a gold soul coin to purchase a map of Eastern Sun City. This inn was squeaky clean. Apart from its cleanliness, there was nothing about it that could be raved about. However, Huo Yuao and Tang Wutong went there for a holiday. They entered their room and closed the door. Huo Yuao then began to recite incantations. In just a few seconds, a pitch black door silently opened. Under the concealment of Huo Yuao's spiritual power, it was impossible to sense any energy undulations coming from this door. Huo Yuao nodded at Tang Wutong. Her body flashed, and she entered the spectral demiplane. Huo Yuao couldn't leave right now, as he had to maintain the energy barrier around the door. Otherwise, any soul master that passed by would be able to sense the sinister aura and immense soul power undulations coming from it. Not long afterward, Tang Wutong returned. Bei Bei, Shu Sanchi, Hiketu, Jiang Nanan and Xia Xiao were with her. It was a gathering of the members of Shrek's 7 monsters. Bei Bei asked Huo Yuao, I heard from Wutong that you've encountered some trouble. Huo Yuao answered, a little, but it shouldn't be a huge problem. Elder Senior, come here and take a look. Everyone gathered around a table, which was covered in the map that Huo Yuao had purchased earlier. He had already marked out some points on it. Among them, he specially used a red marking for a place in the north of the city. Huo Yuao said, through the earlier use of my spiritual detection, I discovered that there are 30,000 troops stationed in the city, as well as a soulmaster legion formed by a total of 150 soulmasters. Just inside the northern city gates, there's a soul formation, which I believe is stronger than the one that we destroyed before. The soul tools there are all the newest types. Furthermore, there are many spiritual detection soul tools. Honestly speaking, it has curbed my spiritual detection and surveillance abilities, such that I'm unable to use my spiritual detection to clearly find out what's going on inside. Earlier, I unintentionally triggered their spiritual barrier. I'm afraid that it has made them warier. Bei Bei nodded slightly and said, the defense of this Eastern Sun City is beyond our expectation. What have you decided to do? If we're going to launch an assault, how confident are you? Huo Yuao said, I thought about it earlier. Given the scale of this soul formation, we'll need our heavy artillery soul engineer legion to continuously attack and suppress them if we are to launch an assault. However, given the soul tools in this soul formation, I'm afraid it will be able to last for quite some time. At the same time, it can even counterattack. We'll definitely sustain some losses then. If we use our Fort Soul Engineer Legion at the same time, we might be able to take it down as quickly as possible. However, we'll still sustain losses. If we go head-to-head with them, we'll expose our abilities. News will then spread from Eastern Sun City. Bei Bei said, it's best for us to avoid any losses. The power that we control is limited. If we can avoid any direct clashes, it will be the best. Everyone nodded in agreement. They had a common agreement on this point. The Sun Moon Empire's expertise in soul tool technology was unquestioned. As a result, there were a few large-scale soul tools among this soul formation that Huo Yuao and Hiketu didn't recognize. They didn't have time right now to research them either. The last time they attacked the Sun Moon Empire's soul formations, there were a few such soul tools around too. If these soul tools were lethal weapons, or if the linked soul tools in the soul formation had some kind of special use, Shrek Academy's 3 soul engineer legions would likely suffer very heavy damage. This was certainly something they couldn't afford to risk. They had linked soul tools too, but each of the 3 soul engineer legions was differently equipped. The heavy artillery soul engineer legion that Huo Yuao controlled were equipped with linked soul tools that could only be used for attacking, but not defending. This was the same for the Fort Soul engineer legion. This was because the resources that would be drained were far too great. It was only by attacking that they could conserve a lot of resources. After all, these 3 soul engineer legions were only supported by the wealth of Shrek Academy. They had no choice but to sacrifice certain aspects. Only the Tang Clan soul engineer legion was equipped with linked soul tools that could attack and defend at the same time. The Tang Clan's greatest problem was that it couldn't afford to sustain heavy losses. This was why they were afraid of being subjected to an all-out linked attack. The offensive strength of such an attack was even too overwhelming for a titled Douluo. Losses and damages were certainly unavoidable. Huo Yuao said, this is why I've decided not to use the heavy artillery soul engineer legion after weighing our options. While the heavy artillery soul engineer legion is offensively strong, it's not flexible enough. Against a huge city like Eastern Sun City, we need to be able to retreat anytime we want to. For this soul formation, we need to think of a way of overcoming it from the inside. It's only in this way that we can minimize our losses and gain the most from it. I agree. Hiketu said without any hesitation. He was excited to have robbed a soul formation the other time. Every soul formation represented immense wealth. It was definitely good to loot a soul formation. Destruction would be a pity. Bei Bei asked, Yuao, are you saying that we're going to stick with attacking from the inside? Huo Yuao nodded and said, a soul formation is very strong. Whether it's in terms of defense or offense, it can achieve the best effects through linked soul tools. However, it has a flaw. It's that any linked soul tools that are fired using a soul formation are all targeted outward. To overcome this flaw, many aerial surveillance soul tools have to be installed around the soul formation to keep enemies from getting close. My strength is that I can conceal myself and get close to the inside of such a soul formation, which would give me an opportunity to cause some destruction. Unless the Sun Moon Empire's soul engineer legions can link together to attack and defend, I should be able to make a breakthrough using such a method. The reason why this soul formation is so troublesome is because it has many spiritual detection soul tools and barriers. That's why even I run the risk of alarming them if I sneak in. I've made some estimates. The largest spiritual barrier in this soul formation is around 500 meters from the formation. That's also the maximum range of a spiritual barrier. Its greatest use is to prevent those who are adept at spiritual power from sneaking in. It doesn't work the same as aerial surveillance soul tools. If they are really guarding against the mermaids, I'm fairly sure that mermaids don't possess any concealment abilities. At least, they can't escape the detection of oscillation detectors. Along with such a spiritual barrier, I'm sure it's enough for them. However, our advantage is that we can avoid detection before we enter that spiritual barrier. That's why we can sneak in and cause destruction if we are able to cover those 500 meters in the shortest time possible before the linked soul tools are able to take effect. If they are automatic linked defensive soul tools, teachers discovered that it takes around 2 to 3 seconds before the entire soul formation is activated after the soul tools are triggered. This will differ depending on the quality of the linked soul tools. This is why we need to cover that distance within 2 seconds to remain out of harm's way. Then, linked defensive soul tools will be useless against us. As he spoke until here, Huo Yuao paused for a moment before he continued, saying, however, there's still a problem. Our uncertainty about enemy strength. I scanned everything inside earlier, although it was at the price of alarming the enemy. When I scanned the place, I sensed that there were roughly 150 soul engineers in the soul formation. However, I couldn't tell their exact strength, as I was too rushed. This also means that the problem that we'll face after sneaking in is how to quickly occupy the soul formation and get rid of the enemies. Bei Bei said, this shouldn't be a huge problem. Given our abilities, we should be able to fight even a titled Douluo. Although Eastern City is an important fort, I don't think the Sun Moon Empire will deploy many titled Douluo here. Now that the war is in full scale, titled Douluo are very important on the battlefield, as they can threaten their enemies on a strategic scale. still. However, they would be less useful if they were over here. On the other hand, I think covering 500 meters is a more difficult task. Can the two of you do it? Who are you? I replied. If our flying type soul tools are at full speed, there shouldn't be a problem. If we bring 2 people each with us, we should be able to scrape through. Shu Sanchi said. That's easy. Leave K2 outside to liaise with us, while we charge in and quickly deal with the soul engineers. After that, we'll occupy the soul formation. K2 was a little dissatisfied as he asked, why am I the one staying outside? My Fort Soul Engineer Legion isn't participating in the fight either. Shu Sanchi said. Of course you are the one staying outside. After we enter, we must do our best not to cause any destruction to the soul formation. Rather, we must only lay our hands on the soul engineers. Those soul tools are extremely destructive. If we damage them, I'll see how sad you'll be. K2 twisted his lips and said, that sounds logical. All right then. Beibei looked at Huo Yuao and asked, Yuao, do you have anything to add? Huo Yuao said, this time, our main force will be the Tang Sect Soul Engineer Legion. They're the most flexible. Second Senior shall commandeer them from the outside, and they'll be prepared to liaise with us at any time. If something happens to us, Second Senior will lead the Tang Sect Soul Engineer Legion to focus its firepower and destroy the link defense of the Soul Formation. Given the strength of the Tang Sect Soul Engineer Legion, they should be able to do so within 15 minutes. However, we must try to avoid a situation where the Tang Sect Soul Engineer Legion faces the offensive soul tools of the Soul Formation. People are more important than resources. We must not conserve any resources at all. All right, I know. K2 nodded seriously. Zhang Nanan said, Yuao, should we deploy our other 2 Soul Engineer Legions outside the city just in case? If we face any problems, the other 2 Soul Engineer Legions can coordinate with the Tang Sect Soul Engineer Legion to attack. Huo Yuao shook his head and replied, there are many aerial surveillance soul tools above Eastern Sun City. It'll be difficult to deploy the other 2 Soul Engineer Legions. If the 3 Soul Engineer Legions attack together, they'll indeed be very destructive. But the problem is that we'll be directly subjected to our own firepower once the enemy's linked defense is overcome, as we will be within the Soul Formation. Zhang Nanan realized how immature her proposition was after listening to his explanation. She turned slightly red and said, apologies, I didn't consider everything. Shu Sanchi always didn't stand on the side of reason. He hugged Zhang Nanan and cheerfully said, no worries, no worries. You had a point too. Huo Yuao followed by saying, however, I'll still need to adjust our manpower. If it's the 6 of us that are going to charge in, I don't think that's the ideal combination. Beibei said, Yuao, you don't need to have any misgivings. You are the chief commander of this mission. Everyone will listen to you. Your word is final. Huo Yuao said, our main goal this time is to kill people, or at least make those soul engineers lose their fighting strength. Under such a circumstance, our attack is of paramount importance. For safety purposes, we need to be defensively sound too. That's why I suggest that 3rd Senior has to go in. However, apart from him, we need to send our most defensive fighters in too. That's why 4th Senior and Xiaoxiao should stay out. Eldest Senior, 3rd Senior, Wutong, Brother Ji, Yu and I shall be the 6th entering. In that way, we can achieve the greatest effect. Our combined destructiveness is the strongest. Xiaoxiao twisted her lips and said, you're not bringing me along for the fun again. All right, I'll stay outside with K2 then. Zhang Nanan nodded and said, I'm fine with this arrangement too. I'll help K2 prepare the Tang Sect Soul Engineer Legion. Huo Yuao said, we'll start then. Seniors, I'll invite you guys out when I find a good spot. Get the Tang Sect Soul Engineer Legion to be fully equipped and ready to await orders. Everyone nodded and quickly returned to the spectral demiplane through the door. Only Huo Yuao and Tang Wutong remained outside. After shutting the door, Huo Yuao led Tang Wutong out of the inn and proceeded towards the north. The 30,000 soldiers didn't scare them at all. Ordinary soldiers were just cannon fodder in front of soul engineers. Even if there were a few soul masters, they wouldn't be able to cause much trouble either. This was why Huo Yuao's goal, to destroy the soul formation in Eastern Sun City first, was very precise. From there, they could control the entire city in the shortest time possible and proceed with their strategic deployment. Since they were going to attack, they definitely couldn't do it from the inn they were staying in. Huo Yuao and the few others could use his imitation to conceal themselves. However, if the entire Tang Sect Soul Engineer Legion was to move out, they needed to gather and prepare first. Although aerial surveillance soul tools had great surveillance abilities, they weren't effective against concealed things or people. They weren't omnipotent. After all, the Sun Moon Empire couldn't possibly use thermal detectors and oscillation detectors to scan the city continuously. There were many people living in the city. Such surveillance was completely unnecessary. Where was the best place for people to gather? There were 200 people. Huo Yuao had a clear idea of what to do, which was to gather everyone in the inn. In the distance, the northern city walls of Eastern Sun City were visible. Huo Yuao squinted and revealed a mysterious look in his eyes. The soul formation was not far in front of them anymore. This soul formation was very intricately constructed. It relied on the northern city walls. Some of the soul tools were located inside the city, while the others were on top of the city walls. However, as his spiritual detection was discovered earlier, Huo Yuao couldn't completely ascertain what those soul tools were. This was why he was very prudent when it came to this fight. He had to fight with his greatest strength. Apart from Yu Yi, those who were involved in this mission had at least 8 rings. Tang Wutong even had 9 rings. Such power was already extraordinary. Moreover, Huo Yuao's combination with Tang Wutong made them as strong as a transcendent Douluo. If nothing unexpected happened, it shouldn't be difficult to charge in and take control of the soul formation. Huo Yuao unleashed his spiritual detection once again. Under his control, he avoided the soul formation, which was directly in front of him. Instead, he extended his spiritual detection to either side of the soul formation. Very soon, he found the place that he was looking for. It was a hotel that was not far from the northern city walls. This hotel wasn't considered very huge. It only had 3 stories. The infrastructure also appeared rather decent, just that it looked slightly dilapidated. After Huo Yuao discovered it, he immediately used his spiritual detection to scan it. The occupancy of this hotel wasn't very high. It was only 30% full. The 3rd floor was very quiet and empty. The guests in this hotel were also ordinary people. No sign of soul power undulations could be detected. This discovery left Huo Yuao very satisfied. He had successfully found a place to hide the members of the Tang Sect Soul Engineer Legion. He used his imitation and disappeared into the night with Tang Wutong. After a brief moment, they appeared within the hotel. Time was not on his side. Huo Yuao naturally didn't ask for rooms. Not only would that leave traces behind, but it was also a massive waste of time. His gentle yet powerful spiritual power silently engulfed the entire building. In the next moment, his eyes flashed with golden light. A weaker version of his spiritual blast was unleashed. Whether it was the staff or the guests in the hotel, they immediately felt dizzy. In the next moment, they all passed out, and the entire hotel instantly went silent. This was how terrifying a spiritual type soul master could be. Huo Yuao managed to quietly gain control of the entire hotel. This time, he didn't open too many of the spectral doors. He only opened 3. The members of the Tang Sect Soul Engineer Legion streamed out of the doors and started to rapidly occupy the entire hotel. Under Huo Yuao's orders, all the guests in the hotel were gathered in the lobby and supervised. This was to prevent anyone from screaming hysterically if he or she awoke from unconsciousness. This hotel was in a prime location. It had 3 stories and faced the soul formation at the northern city gates. The 200 members of the Tang Sect Soul Engineer Legion were hiding beside the windows in each room. Once the order was given, they could charge out immediately. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.